Apple already showed you iOS 27 at their developers conference. But here's what caught everyone off guard. There's 3 additional features coming this fall that Apple barely mentioned. And these aren't minor tweaks. One of them could completely change how you edit photos on your iPhone. Another fundamentally alters how Siri understands what you're asking. And the third quietly gives you more control over your privacy than you've ever had before. The reason Apple's keeping these quiet is interesting. Usually when Apple announces features, they want maximum hype and media coverage. But these 3 feel different. They're the kind of features that sound technical when you first hear about them, but once you use them for a week, you realize you can't live without them. Think about how Face ID seemed complicated until you used it for 5 minutes, and suddenly you couldn't imagine unlocking your phone any other way. What's wild is that tech companies have been racing to add these exact capabilities for years. Google's had some version of this. Microsoft's tried to build it into Windows, but Apple's waiting until they can do it right and keep everything private. That's the difference here. This isn't about catching up. It's about doing it better. The interesting part isn't what these features do. It's why Apple held them back. And I'm going to walk you through all 3, why they matter, and what it actually means for your iPhone by the time you upgrade this fall. iOS 27 is launching this fall, probably October, if Apple sticks to their usual schedule. That's roughly 4 months away. And when it lands, every iPhone from the last few years will get these updates, which is how Apple works. No fragmentation, no waiting years for older phones to get features. Everyone gets them at the same time. Here's the context you need. Over the past 2 years, every major tech company has been obsessed with one thing: getting artificial intelligence onto your device instead of sending your data to the cloud. Google calls it Gemini on your phone. Microsoft calls it Copilot integration. But Apple's approach is different. They're not rushing. They're building AI features that work entirely on your device, so nothing leaves your iPhone unless you explicitly choose to send it. That philosophy matters for these 3 features. Each one is designed around a core idea. Your iPhone is smart enough to do powerful things without asking anyone's permission, without uploading your photos to a server, without recording what you're asking Siri, without tracking where you go or what you do. The other thing you need to know is timing. iOS 27 launches this fall, but Apple's staggering the rollout of certain features. Some features ship immediately. Others come later through software updates. And these 3 features fall into that second category. They are coming in iOS 27, but they're arriving in waves throughout the fall. That's actually strategic. Let's start with the first feature, because this one changes photography on iPhones forever. Apple's adding generative AI image editing directly to your Photos app. This isn't like the AI filters that Android phones have had for a while. It's fundamentally different. Here's how it works. You take a photo on your iPhone, you open it in Photos, you select the area you want to change, maybe the background, maybe a person's expression, maybe an unwanted object in the scene, then you describe what you want instead. Make the sky more dramatic, or put mountains in the background instead of trees, or make the lighting warmer. And your iPhone generates that change on the device itself. No cloud, no sending your photo to Apple's servers, no delay, no privacy concerns. Why is this such a big deal? Because every other phone has you send your photos to their servers. Google Pixel does this. Samsung Galaxy does this. Microsoft does this. Your private family photos are being processed on strangers' computers. Apple's saying no. The AI runs locally on the GPU chip inside your iPhone. The technical part is wild. The GPU inside an iPhone is powerful enough to run generative models that used to require a desktop computer. That's not something anyone could do just 2 years ago. And the quality matters. Apple's not creating blurry or obviously fake-looking edits. The results look genuinely professional. And here's where it gets interesting. This technology could fundamentally change how people think about photo truth on social media. The second feature is Siri getting smarter about context. Right now, when you ask Siri something, it's pretty literal. You ask, "Remind me to call Mom," and Siri sets a reminder. You ask, "What's the weather?" and it tells you the weather. But it's basically treating each request independently. The new Siri understands context across your entire device. You could say, "I'm going to be at the coffee shop on 5th Street for the next 2 hours. Siri remembers that. Then later you ask, "What meetings do I have?" And Siri doesn't just read your calendar, it says, "You have one meeting at 3 p.m., which is 1 hour after you said you'd be at the coffee shop. Do you want me to set a reminder to leave earlier?" It's thinking through the implications. Or imagine this, you're texting with your friend about meeting later. Then you tell Siri, "I'm leaving for dinner." Siri could proactively suggest, "Do you want me to message Sarah and tell her you're on the way?" Because it understands the context of your conversation without you spelling it out. The privacy angle here is what makes it powerful. Google's Siri competitor has to send your voice and requests to Google's servers to understand context. Apple's version does all of this on device, with your data staying local. Think of it like the difference between hiring a therapist who keeps your notes private versus one who shares them with everyone. This fundamentally changes how you interact with your phone. Instead of giving commands, you're having something closer to a conversation. The third feature is a privacy dashboard that gives you something you've never really had on a smartphone before: genuine visibility and control over what your device is doing. Right now, iPhones show you which apps are using your location or camera, but this new feature goes way deeper. It creates a central place where you can see everything your device is accessing, when it's accessing it, and for how long. Every time an app reads your clipboard, downloads a file, connects to a network, or performs any system-level task, it's logged here, and you can revoke access with one tap. Compare this to Android phones. Android users get similar privacy controls, but they are scattered across settings, buried in complex menus. Here, Apple's consolidating everything into one clean dashboard. It's not that Android lets less access happen, it's that Apple is making it obvious. But here's where it gets interesting. There's also a new restriction called transparency zones. If an app is trying to access something suspicious, like reading data from other apps it shouldn't have access to, the dashboard flags it in real time. It says, "This app just tried to read your browser history. Allow or block." Before, you wouldn't even know this was happening. Think of it like security cameras in your house. You have cameras, you check the footage. But what if you could also be alerted every time someone tried to open a drawer they shouldn't? That's this feature. And it matters because most people never realize what their apps are actually doing. This makes it impossible to ignore. Here's the strategic part. Apple could have announced all of these at once during their keynote in early June. They didn't. Instead, they mentioned them briefly and then went quiet. Why? Because Apple knows the tech news cycle. If you announce 10 features at once, journalists cover 3 of them. The other 7 get lost. But if you announce 3 features, get coverage, let that settle, then drop 3 more features a few weeks later, suddenly you're dominating the narrative for months. It's also about user adoption. When iOS 27 launches on day 1, it's overwhelming. You've got generative photo editing, context-aware Siri, a new privacy dashboard. Most people will ignore at least one of these. But by staggering the information, Apple ensures that when each feature launches, it gets your full attention. You learn about it, you're excited, you try it. The feature becomes part of your routine. There's also the competitive angle. Google's launching Gemini features on Pixel phones this summer. Microsoft's pushing Copilot integration everywhere. Samsung's got their own AI stuff. By holding back iOS 27 features and releasing them throughout the fall, Apple stays in the news cycle longer. It keeps the momentum going. But the deepest reason is philosophical. These features represent a fundamental change in how Apple thinks about device intelligence. They're betting that users care about privacy and local processing more than they care about AI that works anywhere. That's a big statement. It means Apple is willing to move slower, do things locally first, and potentially offer less flashy features if it means everything stays private. That's a controversial stance in the industry. If you're planning to upgrade to iOS 27 this fall, here's what you actually need to know to take advantage of these features. First, most importantly, not all iPhones are getting all of these features. Apple's being selective about hardware. The photo editing AI requires a newer GPU. The context-aware Siri works on most phones, but the most powerful version needs a recent processor. The privacy dashboard works on every iPhone running iOS 27, but transparency zones require a phone from the last 2 years. What that means practically, iPhone 13 and newer gets almost everything. iPhone 12 gets most of it. Anything older than that, you're getting some features, but not all. Check Apple's official compatibility list when iOS 27 launches. Don't assume your phone can do everything. Second, these features require you to opt in. Apple turns them off by default for most users, so when iOS 27 launches, you need to go to Settings, find the Intelligence section, and enable these features. It takes maybe 2 minutes, but if you don't do it, your iPhone defaults to the older behavior. Third, prepare your iCloud storage. Generating images on your device doesn't require cloud storage. But if you want backups of your edited photos, you might need more storage. Check your iCloud status now. You've got 4 months to decide if you want to upgrade. Fourth, tell your friends. These features change how iPhones work. If you're excited about them, explain what they actually do to people who might not have read the details. The photo editing feature is the easiest to understand. Show someone how it works on day one. So here's what's actually happening underneath all of this. Apple is making a bet that the future of computing is local, private, and intelligent, not cloud-based, not server-dependent, not data harvesting. Your iPhone becomes powerful enough to do all the things you used to need a computer or cloud service for. That's a radical statement in 2026. Every other company is racing to get your data to their servers where they can train AI models on it, monetize it, sell insights based on it. Apple's saying no, we'll make your device smarter instead. The 3 iOS 27 features we talked about today, photo editing, context-aware Siri, privacy controls, they're not just features, they are proof of concept. They're Apple saying, here's what's possible when you focus on local intelligence instead of cloud processing. What does that mean for you? It means your iPhone gets smarter, your photos stay private, your conversations with Siri don't get logged. It also means Apple is betting that you care about these things enough to stick with them, even if it takes a few extra years to build these features right. The fall is going to be interesting. iOS 27 launches, these 3 features arrive, and suddenly your iPhone can do things you might not have realized you needed. The question isn't whether you'll use them. It's how quickly they become indispensable to your daily routine. Watch for these features coming this fall. And if you're curious about what else Apple's holding back, well, that's probably the real story.